What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with Taj and Brandi Jackson. Now, we definitely thank them for joining us on the show today, and we also want to give a special thanks to Sister Nicole from Nicole's View for helping arrange this. So, Taj and Brandi, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so Taj, it's been, definitely some years, and we talk about people, at least in my age bracket, that we have seen you in the music scene when you was a child. Now, could you tell people what group you was a part of if they don't know?
Yeah, I'm in a group called 3T, and we were in the 90s. I would say 94 is when we released a song called Anything that went platinum, sold 1 million copies in the United States alone. We did pretty well. Overseas we did about 3 million albums sold, and so, we thought, it's funny because compared to Michael Jackson, those numbers don't mean anything. So we were never happy with our success, but looking back at it now, we did very well.
That's crazy that you would say you weren't happy with
no we were not happy with our success.
Those numbers
those numbers didn't mean anything to us
crazy.
back then.
Yeah, that is crazy to say you weren't happy with a platinum record.
Right.
No, we would travel with our uncle. We would play arenas, 20,000 people, and then he would go and place 80,000 people, 100,000 people. So you always were like, okay, we have success, but we want to be there.
Right.
We want to play stadiums, or we want to be number one for 10 weeks like he was,
Right.
So those are the kind of things he would always tell us too. He's like, no, your album did better than our first album did. And once he told us that, we put it more in our perspective, because we're like, whoa, their first album
Right.
did incredible. So that helped us out a lot. But I think it's just like you're always comparing it to something, and
Sure.
we had to learn to be happy with what we had.
Yeah, correct. Now, Brandi, did you ever get involved in music industry?
I was involved in music behind the scenes, so I would work with my father a lot. He still works in music behind the scenes, not just as a performer, as one of the Jackson brothers, but he's a songwriter and producer as well. So I would work with him in that aspect, with publishing and things of that nature. But my passion is photography and editing.
Photography. And so outside of, photography and editing, being behind the scenes with music, are you involved with developing any artists today, maybe behind the scenes?
No, I'm not. I don't work with music as much anymore.
Or did you not have a passion for it anymore, or you just don't like the direction?
No, it's not really. I think that the industry has changed in such a way that my interests have just floated more towards photography. I still love the music industry. I think it's wonderful. Just not so much suited for me. I'm so happy though that I was raised in it and that I was able to work in it. I have a very well-rounded knowledge of how it works and how to operate in it and navigate in it. But just for me personally, I just really am visual, and I like photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys come from a very, very famous family. Especially your grandfather, Joe Jackson. I mean, he started Jackson 5, and that was just revolutionary. For him to put the Jackson 5 together, and the success of the Jackson 5. People still playing the Jackson 5 as of today.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
And your grandfather being a pioneer in music, he don't get the credit he deserves, in my opinion.
It's
Oh,
true.
you bet. Yeah, I would 100%. In terms of what he did, in terms of the foresight that he had, in terms of taking these kids and making them into something, molding them into something that now is still influencing people today with their
Right.
music, and still bringing joy and happiness to people. I mean, that in itself, yeah, you're right about being a pioneer in that way, because I'm always thankful for my grandfather.
Absolutely.
I would thank him all the time when I would see him. I'm like, thank you, grandpa, because he literally opened the gateway in terms
Right.
of not only for our family, but for a lot of Black families
Absolutely.
in terms of the entertainment industry, because they were known as bubblegum music back then.
That's right,
In
yeah.
terms of where other people could like them as well, and so they were pioneers. The whole family has been pioneers in that way, and I'm so proud of that aspect of it.
Yeah, so what is maybe a person or a group that maybe some people don't know that your grandfather was actually behind, that's kind of famous?
I wouldn't say, I mean, besides the Jacksons and stuff, in terms of the, managing them, I would say my grandfather's he's literally, since he molded the Jackson Five, him and my grandma Catherine, you know, many artists like Usher and, you know, New Edition they grew up watching the Jackson Five or watching the Jacksons perform as Usher did with the Victory Tour, you know, and that's what made them want to be artists themselves. So it's like a lot of our music, you know, without New Edition, there wouldn't be, you know, Bub 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 and all the, you know, so it's like there's all these branches that start coming out in that way in terms of the music industry, you know, and so I'm just so thankful in that way for my grandfather.
Yeah, and you know, when it comes to your, you know, definitely your uncle Michael, you know, he's always been, you know, like I say, the star, you know, for a long time. He broke so many records. I mean, I grew up listening. I remember the first time that I really, you know, heard, you know, Billie Jean and Thriller and all that. You know, I remember that little part on Thriller, if those of you who remember it, well, Michael was turning into the werewolf, and then he said, "Go away," and that scene right there was always scared as a little boy when it would come on MTV. And you know, definitely Thriller was definitely something that was, you know, like I said, revolutionary as well. But Michael went on to be a huge star, and everybody loved Michael. So, you know, what happened when all of a sudden people felt like they can just start turning on your uncle and start just, you know, trashing your uncle? I'm talking about while he's alive, all the accusations just start coming out about your uncle. And I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I would say that, in my opinion, that it started with the first case in '93. But I have to say that I think it started before that, when he started purchasing publishing.
When he started purchasing music publishing and he started owning certain things, you know, that you're not allowed in the, you know, to own as a black person in that way. That it's like it was fine when he was making money for them, but then when he started making his own money and they started making money for him, that was the problem that all of a sudden people started having. That's when all of a sudden the Wacko Jacko stuff started happening and whatever, because they started trying to turn the public against him. And my uncle would always say, and I keep saying my uncle, Brandy's right here, but our uncle would always tell us, you know, they're trying to take my publishing away. They're trying to take my publishing away, because he had a deal that was unlike any other deal. You know, he owned 50% of Sony Publishing, and Sony Publishing was one of the biggest publishing in the world when he made that deal. Now they are the biggest publishing, but he owned stuff like the James Bond theme. So every time you heard the James Bond theme, he was getting paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the thing with my uncle. And he had a deal where Sony, if they bought something, if they bought a publishing company, if they bought some, you know, or any Sony artist that had their publishing, my uncle automatically got 50% of that without even having to spend a dime on it. So he had a deal that was unlike any other deal, and that's why they kept trying to take it away from him, because it was too good of a deal.
Right.
Oh, so basically your uncle was a very, very sharp businessman.
Yeah, well, the thing is that once he had that, they wanted that Beatles catalog, and he knew, it's almost like a card game where he knew he had all the aces. He's like, what are you going to give me for these aces? And that's exactly what happened. And then they didn't like how the game was played, and so they tried to change the rules.
So back in that time period when the media were the gatekeepers of information, thank God they're not anymore. Thank God that we can kind of talk like this now. But at one point in time, we couldn't have this conversation.
No.
So you had the case in '93. Johnny Cochran defended, you know, your uncle. And, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, originally Johnny Cochran wanted to go to trial with that.
Yeah, they both, you know, the thing was that there was both a civil case and a criminal case, you know, happening at the same time. And my uncle was preparing for the criminal case. And he did not want to fight both the civil case and the criminal case at the same time, basically, which now it's illegal for the civil case to come before the criminal case. Back then it wasn't. And so it almost was like they were going to see him play out his whole court thing, and then be able to adjust and make fine changes. because the civil case is only about money, but the criminal case would have been about him going to jail. So he's like, that one's the one we need to focus on. And so I think that's the thing, a misconception that a lot of the public don't understand is that nothing, there's people talking about a 93 settlement, a 94, 93 settlement. Nothing stopped that person from testifying in the criminal case. They say hush money, but hush money is when you can't talk. They were allowed to testify in the criminal case. He just wanted that civil case to go away. He's like, you want money? Fine, get away from me. There's your money.
And it wasn't even him.
I know.
But going back to it, it was the insurance company who supported paying that 20 million.
Well, because that's, he's their cash cow basically.
Exactly.
And they don't want him in court. They want him out there making money for them. So that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is at that time, he was prepared to go for the criminal case. The problem is that they didn't have any evidence, just like they don't now. They didn't have any evidence, so that criminal case fell apart. That's what they don't tell you. That criminal case fell apart. They could have carried on with that criminal case, but there was no criminal case.
Right. So now you mentioned the insurance, because people hear artists paying out certain amounts of money, and they say, "Oh, you mentioned $20 million, but you mentioned insurance." And I was reading today about Bill Cosby, and while he's locked up, they had some civil case, and he had AIG, and they paid off some people without him even agreeing to it. I mean, is that something that like people in Hollywood or the industry get into? What type of insurance is that?
Well, I don't know that type of insurance because I don't have that type of insurance, but I can tell you that was common, in terms of it, because it's almost like it's better for it to go away in a way, especially with my uncle. He was doing shows where he's making millions a day on those shows. So for him to cancel his tour and go, to court was something different in terms of that. And that's what he was planning on doing. But at the same time, they want him out there making money, performing, going, writing and recording. That's what Sony and all those people wanted him to do. So I think insurance, they just want, they kind of do the risk factor of it. Like, well, he would make this amount of money in this time period. And so we're just going to pay it off.
Right. It's cheaper to pay.
It's cheaper to pay it off.
Than
just like a car. If you got in a car accident and someone said it's cheaper to pay off, to let your insurance cover it than it is for you to cover it.
And the one in 93, is that the Jordy Chandler one?
Yeah, that's the Jordy Chandler one.
And then later, and correct me if I'm wrong, he stated that his parents put him up to lying.
Yeah.
He's basically, I mean, there's been mixed things about that, but I can tell you that his father and him, he got emancipated from his parents. His father and him got in a domestic fight, basically, where the father threatened to kill him and with a baseball bat. And so they've had some problems, I would say, and his father ended up committing suicide later on. But it's like, I'm hoping he comes around, Jordy does, and just publicly denounces everything, because I know that he was younger back then and he was put up to it by his father. And so that's our fingers crossed kind of scenario, that he comes clean.
Right. So, after your uncle deal with that situation, then, the media still would want to, they try to attack his blackness.
Yep.
And let me ask you a question about that, just so the audience could hear from you guys. That was Michael ever ashamed to be black?
No, he was proud to be black, and that was the thing, and he always let us know that. And he would sit me and my brothers down and say, because you're black, you're going to have to work 3 times as hard to get the same recognition that these other people are getting. He would tell us that about our music career. He would say, watch, as soon as you hit big, they're going to have 3 other groups come and try and replace you. And that's what he would say, because he was aware of it. This would happen to him. And so he was, and as we saw later on in his life, he was very proud to be black. And when I say later on in his life, because he started speaking out about publishing and about black publishing, and this artist stole black music and this and that, and they didn't like that. And that's one of the reasons why he's no longer here, is because he spoke out too much.
So you believe, in your heart that, some way, somehow, Conrad Murray was part of a conspiracy to kill your uncle?
I think something was part of my conspiracy to kill my uncle. I think my uncle, physically, this is just me, my opinion, that trial killed him. You know, that killed his soul. That 2005 trial is what really killed him, and that was a conspiracy.
Okay, now let me ask you a question about that. The after the trial, because I remember before he died, he had announced like a 50-city tour.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that he was gonna come to Houston, and I was like, oh, we got to get tickets. I'm going to see Michael. I never seen Mike in concert. I got to go see it. And then, you know, before that, you know, tour could have happened, you know, Michael, you know, ended up, you know, in the hospital passing away, and you know, which was it shocked everybody. I mean, I couldn't believe it. You know, it's like Michael and Tupac. That's the two that just shocked us. You know, when it happened. So, you know, Michael, you know, they say he passed away. You say the trial, you know, pulled all his soul out. I mean, because it seemed like your uncle was really, at least from my opinion, it really bothered him that people didn't like him or saying things, you know what I'm saying, saying untrue things or like craziness about him. Did he really take in what people said in the media?
You know, for me, I think what bothered him more than he was used to people calling him things like Wacko Jacko in the tabloids. That sort of thing you kind of, I'm not going to say you get used to, but he was kind of used to that. I think the thing that bothered him more than anything was being labeled as a pedophile.
Right.
And then he also talks about not being happy that people said that he wasn't proud of his race. Those were two things that were very important to him. Because that's what he stood for. Like Taj and you guys were just talking about, he was very proud of his race and where he came from. And then he's very proud to be kind to people in general, children being some of those people. So he being so good and coming from such a genuine place, when somebody's trying to tarnish you in that way, that's hurtful. You know, that's kind of attacking who you are in your soul. If they're just calling you weird, whatever, you figure out how to deal with that. But when somebody says that you're harming children or that you're not proud of who you are, I think that's what's more deeply rooted there.
And I think that's a thing. And you know, don't forget remember the time, you know, when he had that opportunity about Egyptians and royalty, he was adamant these are going to be black people, because that's who it is. And he would say that to us. He would teach us that. He's like, you know, they were black, you know. And so I was very proud seeing that music video. I'm like, you know, he's going to correct history in that way. You know, they had certain other actresses playing, you know, in the movies and stuff like that, Cleopatra and stuff like that. And he's like, no, Cleopatra is black, and I'm going to make her black. And, you know, and that's history. And so he was like that. He used his platform for that reason.
Yeah, they try to whitewash history, and I really like that he cast, you know, definitely Eddie, but Iman, because I mean she really looked like the part. I mean, like man, it looked like she just belonged there.
Yes, and that's the thing, and that was our uncle. That's, you know, that's the thing in terms of his pride in that way, and I think that's what hurts me too, is hearing people repeat, oh, he wasn't proud of his race, because all my memories are him being proud of his race, knowing that he's a pioneer, that he's opening the doors for other black people. I mean, MTV wouldn't even play black people. You know, he's the first person, the first black artist to play on MTV. Now everyone takes it for granted. He was the first black artist to play on MTV. He opened the doors for other people on MTV. So you take MTV away, you take away MTV Raps or every other platform that other people used. That was Michael Jackson, and he was proud of that. And I think there's an interview where someone asked him had the audacity to ask him about, would he want a white person playing him?
That's right, yeah.
And he goes, why would I want a white person playing me? I'm black. I know I'm black, you know? And it's like, that's the thing. It's like, people don't think, I guess, you know, in that way, you know?
And it's unfortunate that he had to go through something like vitiligo, which helped perpetuate people's mindset. I think that was part of what made people think that he didn't want to be who he is. And it's unfortunate that they don't research and find out that he actually had this skin condition. It's just sad. The way that he's portrayed. And back to what you were saying about history, he was a historian.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
He
So
knew his history.
and he wasn't going to let anybody tell him otherwise, that things happen differently.
Yep.
You know, and the thing is, you know, like I said about your uncle, you know, like I say I remember he was toward the end of his life, he was calling names out. He was like Tommy Mottola, he's a racist. Sony, I mean, he was name dropping. I said, whoa. I said, Mike Ty.
Yeah. I mean, think of they don't care about us, what that's about, you know, and you know, he did a whole music video about that, and so he was definitely, you know, trying to wake people up in that nature.
And it's documented that he was receiving death threats in this time frame, but was still very vocal about his about what he knew.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you know, he was, you know, one song that people don't pay, they always talk about, they don't care about us, but did you really listen to the lyrics? One day I actually paid attention to the lyrics of Scream.
Yes.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I really sat there and listened to what they were saying, because, you know, the music is good and you're not even paying attention to it, you know, whatever. Say, oh, okay, Michael and Janet, you know, it was a good song. But I actually listened to what Michael was saying in that song and say, whoa, Michael was really talking this song too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, the aggression and the anger of it. That, you know, that's the thing. You got to look at the lyrics, because, you know, he's over there telling it like it is.
Right.
Yeah, right. And go ahead, Brandy.
No, I was just saying, a lot of his songs have messages in them like that people don't even realize. They know the lyrics, they're singing along.
Yeah, you hear the song and the music, and you're letting the lyrics just pass by.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, you fine. And then, you know, how not only, you know, what's happened to your uncle, but also, you know, what happened to your aunt, you know, as well. You know, now Janet has always been a, you know, superstar. I remember Janet being Penny on Good Times, you know.
Good Times,
I'm telling some of my age. But, you know, the thing is, when that Super Bowl fiasco happened, they tried to blame your aunt for it, like it was her fault. And the way, you know, that's called what it is, white America and the media demonized Janet for that.
Yeah.
And it's like they never stop, you know, treating her in a bad light because of something that Justin Timberlake did.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. That's the hypocrisy of America in that way. And in terms of, they blamed it all on Janet, you know, like she did it, you know, when it was him that pulled the thing off of her.
Right.
You know, and I think someone said it best. And I forgot, I can't claim who said it, but they said, imagine if that was Jay-Z pulling off something off of Britney Spears, how crazy that, you know, the media would have been.
Right.
That shows the difference in terms of opinions, in terms of hypocrisy in that way. And so I think my aunt took all of it. I was going to say she took all the blunt for that. She took all the blame, and it really, I mean, she just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it was past due in that way. You know, there's many artists that have already been inducted, and that she's been way better than, that she was more of a pioneer in, you know. And I mean, Madonna was inducted 10 years ago, you know, so.
Yeah, your aunt was definitely a bigger superstar than Madonna. I'm not taking nothing away from Madonna. I'm just saying, just in legacy.
It should have 10 years later.
Yeah, that is so crazy. That is so crazy. Now we can fast forward to this, and I didn't watch that crap because I wouldn't even want that in my spirit. This lying, leaving Neverland documentary that they came out to slander your uncle. So that's all what that was about. I mean, now let's call it what it is. It's a concerted effort to destroy, especially famous black men.
Right.
And when they start messing with your uncle, I say, oh, so you mean to tell me they're messing with Michael?
Yeah.
I said, Michael's not even here anymore. Like, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to boot with it, there's not one piece of evidence that they're bringing to this, and it's being taken as though it's factual and filled with evidence.
It's been taken as gospel, and not only that, you know, I kind of had an idea that they didn't tell us that they were doing this, but because his 10-year anniversary was coming up of his death, I knew they weren't going to let us just celebrate him. I knew they weren't going to let us throw tributes to him without something. I expected some kind of sleazy something. I did not expect this, though. I didn't expect this hit piece. This filled with 4 hours of lies, basically.
Right.
I didn't expect that, but I did expect them not to be quiet about it, because he's always been a threat. The one thing they do not want is they don't want other people looking up to him, other black families going, I want to be the Jackson family. I want to do something. I want to aspire to that. So they always try to tarnish the Jackson name in that way because they don't want to give you that hope, that the kids, that hope. The worst thing for them would be black kids singing or being talented in that way, which, or knowing their worth.
Right.
And that's certain things that they just don't want.
Yeah, then on top of that, they also came out and admitted that there were lies, inconsistencies in this documentary, that the people that came out saying something, they wasn't telling the truth, and then they were bullying Paris on their lies.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how sick they are?
Yeah, we see, unfortunately it's not something new to us, but we've seen that, I mean, it's a double standard basically with our family in that way, in terms of the media had no problem reporting it, but then when the lies came out, all of a sudden the mainstream media is quiet, and that's why we really appreciate there's been certain international media, there's been certain black media that has been very good to us in that way, and we are very appreciative of it, but the mainstream media has been very silent, almost as if they've already made their bed and they're going to lie in it no matter how many fleas are in it.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's just so wrong. And see, the media needs to be reeled in. I'm sorry, what they done to your family, they've done to many people's families, ruined people's lives, and they're not held accountable. So I saw that. I don't know if you saw that incident that happened at the National Mall, and I'm not really getting into the politics of that, but one of the parties is suing all the media outlets for putting out things about him that they claim wasn't true. Now, I'm not saying I don't even want to know, but if it was my family, I would want to sue somebody because, you're not going to put up there to slander my family like that, especially someone that's passed away.
Right. Well, that's the trick. There's no laws that protect us. As when someone's deceased, all their rights go away. So we can't sue for libel or slander. A lot of people don't know that. So they can make up any lie they want about Michael Jackson, and we have no recourse to sue them for it. Now, if they said something about us, we can sue them. But because Michael Jackson is no longer with us, we can't sue them. The family can't sue them. His kids can't sue them. So that's something that needs to be out there. It's not that we're being quiet and we're not suing. It's we can't sue.
God, that is sick. That they can literally just lie on anyone who's passed away, and if enough people believe it, that's what that person's legacy would be. At one point in time, they used to have a statement like, don't speak ill of the dead. Yeah. And it's like when it comes to black people, whether you're alive or dead, they have no respect.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true, and I think that's the thing in terms of it. And we got to be very careful about history because everything we know about people in the past is from what we read. And so I'm very cautious of what, the story is going to say about my uncle, because, if we let mainstream media have it say, it's going to be painted a certain way that is not even truthful.
Right.
So that's,
I mean, they do that now.
Yeah.
In regards to the previous cases, they try to reference certain things and spin them as though they happened differently.
Yeah.
So they're using things that weren't even actual and calling them evidence today.
Yep.
And people are not even doing the research to find out that these things aren't true. So that easily they're rewriting history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's completely, like I said, wrong. That's not in the spirit of journalism. We don't even really have real journalism anymore. Let's call it what it is. You have open propaganda wings now.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And as African American people, we have to also engage that propaganda war. So let's get to Miss Oprah Winfrey, because that's the person we need to talk about here. I was very upset with Oprah. Many of Michael's fans was very upset with Oprah that she went along with this lie to demonize your uncle, put up these fake accusations against your uncle, and ran with it. Why has she called you guys or maybe tried to message you guys in any way, shape, or form and say why she did that?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
I mean, I know she did it for ratings. You attach Michael Jackson's name to anything and there's ratings, and she took that opportunity. I don't even think she did the research to the background check. She, before the thing even came out, she had shot something, that hour-long special. And so she was convinced no matter what, like it was going to be one way or
Right. This was what they were doing. They were selling this regardless.
yeah, they were selling it regardless. They didn't care if it was true or not.
And then later, we all know that she deleted everything from her social media page. She took down the clips, that she did with was it one of the guys, Wade Robeson. And if anybody know about him, if he got on because of Michael, okay?
Absolutely.
He
Yeah.
got all those Wade Robeson experience, all the different things that he had. It's because of your uncle.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
So what
Yeah.
makes you? I don't understand it, Taj and Brandy. Is you helped me get on, and you pass away, man. You gonna be the person that like I'll defend you to the core. I don't care what's going on. Like you helped me. Like what was going on with these people to get them to turn against your uncle like that?
Privilege. That's the word, privilege. In terms of, I was taught to work for what I have, and not to blame other people. What you have is what you make. They are people that expected stuff. They had a good life, and so they expect the estate and they expect the family to take care of them forever. And then it comes down to privilege. They don't want to work for it. They got to blame someone, so they're going to blame other people. And that's the big difference. There's other people that appreciate, the kindness and the hospitality and what my uncle stood for,
Right.
but not them. No, they looked at him as dollar signs and as opportunity. And once he's no longer here, they're going to find another way to get that.
Yeah, that is so wrong. That is so wrong they did your uncle. But we talk about this sort of thing on our platform daily about how they lie, how they like to demonize black people, and then we usually don't have no way to counter anything. So I'm very, very happy that you guys are putting out your story. You're telling other people, and the more you spread this out, the truth will get out, and then the lies will not stick at all. And I feel that Taj and Brandy, you are very brave to come out because some people won't stick their neck out like this.
Yeah. No,
It's just that when you know the truth and you know so well who the people that you're dealing with, who they were and who they are, you have to come out and speak on it.
Yeah.
It would be a disservice for us to sit back quietly and not come and speak out, regardless of how it's taken.
Yeah, and I feel also that they are trying to erase him from history.
Absolutely.
And his accomplishments as a black man. And I feel it's insulting to me in that way, and I'm not going to let them get away with that.
Right. You should never listen, to me, nobody has topped your uncle in the way he stage performance, dance, record sales. None of them can. They tried to find their own version of Michael, but they can't do it because that's kind of what it is. Black people, we talented. It is what it is. But this is the thing that I see with that. We have to keep our history going, right? And from what, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you working on something yourself behind the scenes, or maybe going to come out with something?
I am. I definitely am. But it's basically talking about the media and my uncle and how they've done this to him and how the narrative has been in terms of they don't tell the truth on him ever. And so I am working on something right now in that regards, because it is our responsibility to do that. Otherwise it's people are going to take what the mainstream media says, and I'm not good with that.
Yeah, you definitely doing good. You keep fighting for Michael. He said he's not here anymore, but fight for him every day. Don't let these people tarnish his legacy. Don't let them relegate him to a court case. I mean, Michael is more bigger than that. Like I said, people actually fell out in his concerts. I've never seen nothing like that before, how people react to your uncle, no matter where he went.
That's the thing, that people feigning, people this and that, like that's what scared them, that response that they would get. I mean, I was on tour, watching him, and people, I kid you not, from the hotel room to the venue, people would be outside like a parade. It was almost like a parade, watching him, like standing there watching the car go by, and I've never seen anything like that. It was like almost like he was royalty in that way. And trust me, certain people were not happy with that.
No, well, yeah, they fear his power basically, or his potential power. I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Right.
it's his power, and they feel that not only his power, his inspiration. You know, because the one thing that when you reach a certain platform or plateau, and then all of a sudden you're inspiring the younger generation to dream that way and to reach that. That's what the threatening thing is so they want to tarnish him to the point where no one wants to be that anymore.
And they've essentially almost tried to erase him as a humanitarian.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Although the things that he's done, they don't talk about any of the good things that he's done. They just talk about the things he was accused of.
Yeah.
And that's a disservice to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he put together. I remember that "We Are the World" song, and when all the they were talking about the AIDS in Africa. Even though we talked about that on this platform, how that was put in vaccines to kill off the South African population, but that's a different story. You have some very powerful people that do a lot of evil things. So but Michael was always trying to bring people together. That's for sure. And I was just laughing about the story Prince had told about your uncle. He said that he was supposed to originally be on the Bad song with your uncle.
Yeah. You're saying the first line, "Your butt is mine."
Yeah, Prince, he had a problem with that.
Yeah. He would, because my uncle did say that he would tell us all the time that it was supposed to be a duet with him and Prince.
Really?
Yep.
I was waiting to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I hate they never got together and do anything because Prince was another one. Look at how he died.
Yeah, 100%. And I've mentioned that before in other interviews. It's like, I also mentioned Sam Cooke. If you, he's got a documentary on Netflix right now, and it's amazing the coincidences that you see.
Parallels.
You see these powerful black artists, that own their own publishing, and all of a sudden they're taken out and they're made to look a certain way.
Right.
And it's and there's a very big parallel between Michael Jackson, Sam Cooke, and Prince in that, to me.
I don't know if you remember when your uncle had stated about Chris Brown when he had said that, hey, he gonna be the next one, right? You remember that? And it's like, Chris Brown, they won't leave him alone. They're allowing him. I know he had his incident, whatever. Like you said, he moved on. But my issue is when he recently got some of his masters back, and then all of a sudden he gets on rape charge.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? A rape charge? And all of a sudden that went away because they tried to get him before. I don't know. You remember the other woman to say, oh, he held me in his house, and then he have cameras in his house, so that went away. So they trying to get Chris Brown.
And we'll still continue to try and get him. And that's the difference of it in terms of with black artists and even, I don't want to say just artists, but when you reach a certain plateau or when you reach that certain stratosphere, you're a threat to people in that way because they don't want you to succeed, and they don't want you to be a beacon of any kind of, I don't want to say positivity, but any kind of aspiration.
Right.
It's like, no, you can't be like this person.
Don't uplift your people.
Yeah, don't uplift your people. And so they'll have all the people on that talk bad about their own race and stuff like that, but they will not have the people that are celebrating in that way.
Now, let me ask you a question because, I see a lot of issues with black men, and especially they attack us a little bit more at times. And why is it that some of us don't have a contingency plan to leave America if we know this is coming our way?
It's coming here. That's a good question. I don't know that answer in terms of it, because there's something brewing right now, in terms of it's I feel like it's always been there, but it's more out in the open now. Right. People that are saying that racism, they're waking their eyes up to racism. Racism's always been here, and in that way. I mean, even through the Jackson lens, I would get pulled over by cops saying, with that typical, your car matches this description.
Absolutely.
We're not exempted from that. That's happened to me. I've been accused of shoplifting when I was 12 years old and saw the kids that were doing it. Right. But they checked my bag, and I felt so you feel dirty in
Right.
a way, almost like, why aren't you checking them? Because I saw them do it, but I didn't tell on them. And it was some white kids that had stolen stuff. And it bothered me because I was like, why am I getting accused of it?
Right.
In this way. And I've lived my life very straight and narrow in that way. And it was I've learned the hard way in that term. But, or the news, when you see the news and, when they don't mention a race, it's not a black person. As soon as, certain person, but as soon as they mention the race, it's like a black person that did something bad, and it's they're not, they're quick to mention that, like this black man did this and that, but it's like a certain man did this, it's like it's not a black person.
Right. My father was a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, he was at gunpoint. I want to tell you, there were about 10 cops. We came out of a restaurant, he and I, and about 10 cops pulled guns on him, told him to get on the floor. He was lying on the floor, and they told him that he fit the description of a bank robber down the street. And it's just unbelievable to me that just anybody, you're black, you're in a certain neighborhood, you must be.
Wait, hold on. Your father, Jackie.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Well
was
known.
Well known.
And
He
they
I
pulled
coming out
guns on him.
Pulled guns on him.
Oh, yeah.
And had him on
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous though. They don't care who you are.
Yeah.
If you're black, if your skin color matches the description or matches their description. There was no bank robbery in the area. This was a very small town.
Yeah.
We know what happens in this city. There was no bank robbery. What their point was, what they were doing, I'm not sure. But they saw him and wanted to target him.
Yeah, that's how it is. And I was taught with my dad taught me at a young age, right when I started driving. He said, if you get pulled over, you have to tell them everything you're doing.
Yes.
Say, my wallet's in my glove compartment. I'm slowly going to it.
Right.
So I was always aware of that. Because of my dad made me aware of that.
Right.
He was not.
There's no immunity.
There's no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there should, it's like, so
there shouldn't be.
We understand it, in terms of that way. Just because we're Jackson doesn't mean we don't live that.
Right, and for people who don't know Taj, who's your dad?
Tito.
Okay, Tito. So just so you guys can know. So even the Jackson 5 offspring got pulled over too. So no, but the thing is, in this country, none of us are immune. We aren't. I mean, the thing is, you see those cops, they look at somebody like, you or others as an uppity Negro.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
I was at down the street, a coffee shop, and my friend, he had, I think it was a police, like not a jumper, but like a raincoat kind of thing that his uncle gave him, that was in the forest. He went to, I'm not gonna say the location, but he went to a coffee shop, and he went inside, and I was in the car just waiting for him to get the coffee, and he came out, and then all of a sudden cops came, and I guess the people thought that he was a cop, so they gave him the food for free.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about this, but all I know is that I'm put in handcuffs and I'm behind in the back of a car for being in the car.
That's ridiculous.
I know it's ridiculous, but that was what happened. And it's like, so this is the first time I've ever been put in handcuffs. I'm put in handcuffs because I'm sitting in the car waiting for someone.
And this is America.
This is America. This is literally down the street.
But that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
In this country.
So.
Not that it's a secret.
It's not, yeah. So we get it just like everyone else gets it, in that way.
Yeah, see, and for me, like last year for the first time I went to Ethiopia. We was invited, the consulate invited us to go to a festival out there. And I was so at peace when I was in Ethiopia. I didn't want to come back to this place because it's like you literally feel the stress on you in this country. Just leave it for a week. You see what I'm talking about? It's like you feel depressed. You feel like, it's like because the tension that's in the air constantly, and it's like the tension has gotten worse. And some people say, oh, it's Donald Trump. Say, no, it ain't Donald Trump. Y'all been want to act that way. You just feel that he giving you a green light to go back to what you know.
That's right. He gave them a pass, and now they don't have to hide it anymore.
Yeah. And that's the thing and that's why I'm always appreciative of, the when the white people, they like they are marching like with Martin Luther King and stuff like that, because it's like that took a lot of guts as well, to do that, because it's like I feel like it's just natural in terms of like sides. It's like this side or that side, but there is a lot of gray area in that too. It's like, but I feel like it's getting worse in that way. I really do. I feel like it's always been there, but now it's getting worse because now it's out in the open.
Right.
You can be blatant, but you can either be a blatant racist, here, or you can show your racism there. And so that's where it's getting scary. And I think that's the thing with what's happened with our uncle. It's like, it's out in the open now. It's like they can call him whatever they want and there's no repercussions in that way, and I think that's the scary thing about it. And I think it does have a lot to do with race, because you don't hear about the other people being called this that have evidence, tied to them. But here's the two testimonies, and now that's supposed to be fact.
Right, and they, like you said, they don't talk about all these other artists who's actually fooled with underage girls, who have video talking about it. Like we showed a picture of Elvis with underage girls. You had what's his name, Ted Nugent was fooling with underage girls. I mean, actual, doing it. But when it comes to your uncle, they're not talking about them. They're talking about your uncle or whoever else they want to talk about. But yes, everything is based on race in this country, unfortunately. This is why, Brandi and Taj, we have to unify as a community, definitely globally unified, because these people are only going to get worse and worse and worse. They're not about to get any better no time soon. And that's something that we just have to do. We have to stick together as much as possible. So what you guys doing for your uncle is awesome. The truth always is going to defeat the lie, always. So you got the truth on your side. Your uncle. Keep telling his story. Don't let nobody forget your uncle. Don't let nobody forget your family, because your family is American icons.
Thank you.
And they have innovated this country, innovated the world. So never let people forget that. So Taj and Brandi, could you possibly tell people how they could maybe want to ask you some questions on social media? Could you let people know how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, of course I have to double check because.
Okay, I'll start then.
Go for it.
I'm on Twitter at Taj Jackson 3. I think that's it. Yeah. Now I don't know.
See?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter on Taj Jackson 3. I'm on Instagram at Taj Jackson. Those are probably the best places to reach me, I would say, or Taj at tajjackson.com for emails or whatever. That's kind of a public email. So
yeah, and for me on Twitter, I'm bjackson82, and on Instagram, I'm brandyjackson82, and there's a little link there for email if you'd like to send me a personal message on my Instagram.
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask them a question, you gave their social media handles. But like I said, we need to definitely support Taj and Brandi in their efforts to, keep speaking for their uncle, since they can lie on him and nothing could happen, which is very, very sick. And, the Jackson family, like I said, they're like an American icon. They're part of our community. And we all need to, make sure to watch out for them and take care of them and forget this media that's always trying to lie on them. So Taj and Brandi, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us this, Friday evening. And you be blessed. And like I said, anytime you guys, like I said, you could get with us. We'll come, sit down, talk with you at any given time. Just let us know.
Thank you so much.